Good morning, friends and relatives. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Lynette Tubles, Duanyakiapiwi, Scouts the Way woman, Oglala Lakota, and Northern Cheyenne. I'm coming to you live from Lame Deer, Montana, from our Yellowbird Lifeways headquarters. And today we are back with our food sovereignty and health and wellness program. And it's called Food for Life. So I'm real excited today that we have two guests with us today. And before I introduce them, you can see them online, but before I introduce them, I just want to welcome everybody for joining us this morning. Want to say, hi honey washte. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for joining us. And share with your friends and relatives. And if you have any questions, you can also put them in the comments. Let us know where you're joining us from. And today we have a real important topic. And so our program, we're addressing all areas of food sovereignty, from gardening, we've had hunting programs, we've had foraging, plant medicine. We've had so many different topics in this past year. And we're so excited to continue to bring all the various topics and guests on our show. So just thank you for supporting us and staying with us. And the other component is health and wellness. And I think that's just as important because and being well consists of mind, body, spirit, because we're whole. So it consists of all of that. So we have to take care of ourselves in all of those areas. And there's a lot of plant medicine out there that can help us do that, can help us with, I know a lot of us have with our program, our food sovereignty program that we have here on the Northern Cheyenne, we did a survey and a good majority of people are struggling with wellness, with underlying health conditions. And so I'm real excited. I've been wanting to do this topic for quite some time. And so I'm glad it finally came together. But our plant relatives, they can help us. They can help heal us, or they can help us with pain. And so today we're going to be talking about one of the plants. So I'm going to introduce our two guests that we have here. And both of them are from the Rosebud Sioux tribe, our Sikanju relatives over there. And Ann Whitehead has been with us a couple of times before, sharing about plant medicine and making medicines for us. And so we have her back again. And Ann, her traditional name, Ohitikawi, is a member of the Ashke Gluipi Tioshpae of the Sichagu Lakota and a direct descendant of Chief Hollow Horn Bear. She is a proud mother of three, a community organizer, and she does a lot of different, she is so active, and she is coming to us from Louisiana, where she lives now with her family. And she's very active. The last time she was on the program, she had one of her, I think it's a Delta Roots. Yeah, I think they were making medicine for us. I think we made fire cider. And so that was an awesome show. So welcome, and thank you for joining us. And then our other guest that we have today is new to our program. She hasn't been on before, but I've been following Vi's work for many, many years. She is an advocate for our people. She's just done a lot. And she is also from the Rosebud Sioux tribe. She is the founder of the Lakota Wellness Society, an indigenous, I have to blow up because I can't see. So when you start to get my age, you have to use reading glasses. So she is the founder of the Lakota Wellness Society, an Indigenous-led nonprofit organization promoting food sovereignty and healthy life ways. So we're so glad to have both of these women here. They do carry a lot of knowledge, and I want to, today our topic is an important topic, and sometimes I guess it can be somewhat controversial. I don't think it has to be, but I think that in some circles it is. And our title today is, we're going to be talking about hemp, and this medicine is a powerful ally to help us heal and survive this moment and thrive as we work to build a sustainable future for our relatives and grandmother Earth. So today they're going to be discussing the medicinal benefits of CBD and all of the uses of hemp and what we can use that for. And they're going to be talking about some of the things that they're doing in their own products and in their community with this plant medicine. So thank you for both coming and sharing on our program today.
Thank you for having us, Lynette. It's good to be here.
Thank you for having both of us, Lynette.
Yeah, welcome.
I'm so excited. I was thinking about this conversation this morning, and I thought, oh, I have been waiting to have this conversation for like 30 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh my God. I did this huge research paper on hemp in college. And so I'm really happy just to share some of the things that we know about, about hemp, and also just to talk about the future of hemp in our world, and I wanted to share just briefly why, and I think, having an education about everything is powerful. Having an educational tool about everything is powerful. So I wanted to share briefly why it's important to understand the history of the criminalization of hemp, the plant. And it goes back to the early 1900s to like the 1920s. Hemp has been historically, since it's been around, it's a relative, it's a natural, it's a plant that has been here since the beginning of time, right? And folks have been using hemp and working with hemp for everything from rope to medicine. So in the 1920s, there was basically a triad of forces that came together to criminalize and make hemp illegal because it came down to money. And in this country, everything comes down to economics. So it was basically, hemp can be used as a fiber for rope. Hemp can be used to make paper. And hemp can also be used to make clothing. And so it came to a point when hemp as an industry was coming up against toe-to-toe with the cotton industry, toe-to-toe with the pulp and paper mill industry. And the pulp and paper mill industry is incredibly toxic to our environment. So they were coming head to head in terms of, hemp was going to be able to take over all of these industries. And so these folks did not want to lose their money bank. And so they basically came together with political allies in the government system and waged basically a whole campaign against hemp. And mind you, at one point, hemp was advocated in the United States by the US Department of Agriculture. There was a campaign called Hemp for Victory. And so they were paying US farmers to grow hemp to provide what I just talked about, textiles for the war. So that is what happens. Basically, those powers came into being. The media, you have the media, you have cotton industry, you have pulp and paper industry, came together, made a really wonderful and a powerful media campaign to basically slander our plant relative and make it illegal. So that's what happened basically in the 1920s. And so it's been a long haul since then. We're talking 100 years now, almost 100 years later, where CBD and the hemp derivative of hemp, CBD, is now being recognized. It's being legalized again. And so it's something to celebrate, but it's also something to understand that it was all economics that held this back. So that's my little short, brief history lesson. And why it's important for us to understand the criminalization and the powers that be that make these things possible for us to, or impossible for us to access our plant relatives. I don't want to, Vi, you can chime in any moment here. That was my little spiel.
Okay, thank you, Anne, for that history lesson on this medicine that was given to us by the Creator. Like you said, it's been controversial everywhere ever since the capitalist people didn't want hemp to overcome their businesses. So here on Rosebud, marijuana and hemp were both criminalized in our tribal law and order code. And they've been as a controlled substance, defined as a controlled substance in that law and order code. And last year, despite the pandemic, the tribal council took action to decriminalize hemp. So today, hemp is legal on the reservation. It's okay to have CBD. It's okay to possess hemp. Right now, the tribe has a hemp commission they created last year, and they're accepting applications for grower's license. So I am proud to say that I am the first applicant for a grower's license on the Rosebud Reservation. All my paperwork is in. I'm going through a background check now. And as soon as I get that license, seeds are going in the ground. So yay. Thank you, Rosebud City Tribal Council for doing that. And they've also talked about decriminalizing marijuana. So we're not there yet, but eventually this medicine is going to be available to all of us.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that work, Vi. Thanks for following through and getting that, groundbreaking work to be the first license and actually really helping to pave the way for the rest, for other folks, I've been working with CBD, CBD is a derivative from hemp. It's a chemical process of, there's all these, they call them cannabinoids. And so CBD is one of them. And it's been extracted from, it gets extracted from hemp, the plant, and is used in a variety of medicinal ways. And there's been a lot of research on this. Everything from, they talk about cancer, pain relief of all kinds, anxiety. What I have done is, in my studies, I basically set up a little internship and went to Colorado to a hemp farm up there and developed a relationship with folks at a hemp farm way up in the mountains up there. And I spent a few days working with them, and specifically I wanted to know, how do I incorporate CBD into my remedies? I wanted to know everything from seed to salve, basically. I got to see their growing operation. It's a small growing operation, really nice family-run operation called Salida Hemp. And then also we just went back into the kitchen, and that was where I really had a good time, right? Where it's just looking at the actual CBD oil. It's really dark when you work with the CBD oil. It's real thick and heavy, it's an oil. And the guy, he calls it the crude oil, which is kind of ironic since I'm fighting these pipelines, right? So we were talking about that. I said, okay, we'll work with the crude. So, so it's a super concentrated. And And so they taught me how to work with it, how to incorporate it into remedies. And there's a formula that goes along with it. When you see that formula on there, 200 milligrams, 100 milligrams, or whatever, it's actually like a formula that goes into that. So you need to, it's why important to learn your math. Important to know math. But I've developed, I've been fortunate to develop that relationship and have some CBD to work with to formulate into my products. And I hesitate to offer any of that for sale right now because we have to go through, like Vi said, there's a lot of paperwork and regulations. And so that's like state to state as well. So in Louisiana, I'm just getting ready to do that process so I can manufacture and distribute my wonderful CBD products, which have had a lot of really good feedback. I know a couple of years ago, and I'm just going to share this with you. And I had provided some remedy to a relative who had just had a stroke. And so we did some research, and she had developed like Bell's palsy out of that afterwards. And so I sent her some of the infusion that I had made and the salve, and she used a really heavy dosage and a regimen on that. And I'm telling you, she swears that helped her to heal and recover her throat and being able to talk, all the therapy she had to go through and the pain as a result. So we've had a lot of success and a lot of, it's very medicinal. I like Vi wants to talk a little bit about that. It'd be great.
Sure. And I've worked with Anne since, like she says, the late 1900s. We started doing plant medicines together. And so I trust her work because while both of us have developed a relationship with the plant nation and we approach the plants as a relative, as it should be, they were put here by Creator to help us. So we do offerings, we go in prayer when we harvest plants and fruits and wild foods. But a couple of years ago, Anne gifted me some of her CBD oil, and it was like a miracle. It was a miracle, folks. I had pain in my hip for years. I hurt my hip really bad when I was a teenager, and there was basically nothing that would take that pain away. And she gave me that little bottle of oil that day, and I took it right away, and that pain went away right instantly. It was gone. So every day I take this medicine, and it has helped my body heal from so many things that I wasn't even aware of. I was a heavy smoker of cigarettes for a long time. Ever since I was a teenager, I smoked cigarettes. And I quit smoking about 13 years ago, but because of all the dependence I had on nicotine, I had a lot of anxiety. Anxiety would just come out of nowhere and knock me over. And the CBD oil has taken that away. I feel like in situations where I normally get anxiety, I just kind of wait for it to hit me and nothing happens. So I know it's the CBD because I haven't taken anything else for it. Last fall, I was privileged to go out. Well, not last fall, it was 2019, the fall of 2019. I was privileged to go to the Pine Ridge Reservation on the harvest day at Keysa Park with the White Plume family. And they have about a 3-acre plot out there. And it was the most wonderful day of my whole life. We were there, we got to help harvest the plants, and we were there all day. And just being there, when we left, I felt no pain. I felt great. There was no pain. My ears weren't ringing anymore. It was like, I just want to go live in that hemp field, So I thought the Lakota Wellness Society was a good way to get this medicine on Rosebud. I plan to do a test crop this year. I've got a little greenhouse I've got to put together, and I'm going to try and get my plants going in there. I'm going to use the greenhouse and put some industrial seeds in the ground. The greenhouse is going to be for the CBD plants, and the industrial seeds are going to go in the ground. So I want to do the greenhouse because I don't want my crop to get hot. I don't want my crop to turn into a plant that has a high THC content, because then I'll have to destroy it. There's all these regulations we have to follow. They're in the farm bill that the USDA and the federal government approved. So if you want to know what the regulations are, read that farm bill, because it has a lot of information in there. Alex White Plume has been doing this, growing hemp, for probably 30 years. And at one point he had a lifetime restraining order on him and his family. They had hemp growing all around their house and they couldn't touch it. And so he's really happy now that he can grow this plant legally. The other day, I watched a video of him talking about his hemp crop. And the Lakota word for hemp is Wahukashka Pejuta. I'm not a fluent speaker, so I know I didn't do the gutturals in there, but that translates into white root medicine. So it's really important for our people to have access, free access to this medicine right locally. We can order online, but the product we get online isn't really strong. I've ordered online before and it doesn't really do anything for me. So again, that goes back to making that relationship with the plants, harvesting them ethically, because that's a nation. They're a nation, that's a relative. And the only way that that essence of the medicine is going to stay in the CBD that we produce is by making that relationship, asking that plant not to lose that healing essence when we convert it into oil or salve or food or anything else. My goal is to produce CBD oil and provide it to elders who have chronic pain, who want to get off narcotics. I'd like to provide it to cancer patients and other people who have different health issues, health disparities, like heart disease and kidney disease and all those things, diabetes, that all our people are suffering from. And so, yeah, that's where we are right now. And I'm really appreciative of Anne for all the work she's done. She just forages forward. She doesn't listen to the naysayers. She just goes and does it. So I'm patiently waiting for her to move back here and help me with this crop. But until then, we'll just have to zoom in and talk about it.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing that. I think it's so important. I think by what you're talking about, the relationship with the plant, I think that's so important with all, we've talked about it on the show many different times with different people, that connection to the plant nation and to that medicine is so important. So we're not just harvesting it and mass producing it and doing this type of thing, but for us, it's that relationship and the prayers and the mindset that go into it when you're harvesting it, when you're sitting there making the medicine, when you're putting it together, all of that. I think it goes back to food too. When we harvest our food, when we prepare it, when we cook it, it's the mindset, the prayerfulness that goes into it, the relationship, the connection, because in our way of life, we're connected to everything. There's no separation. We're connected to the plant nations, to the animal nations, to everything. And so I think it was really important, and thank you for sharing that. And I think it's important for our audience to understand that. And also I wanted to say with my uncle, Alex White Plume, he has been doing this for so long. And I remember when, the feds came in and raided him, and, he believed in this medicine, and it took all of these years. And now he's able to grow it again, to help, his family, and to help. It's like an economy. They're creating employment for their community, and their, and the medicines, and, everything that you can make from hemp. I think, I really think that's a way of the future. And I think a lot of the different nations, the tribal nations, really need to look at that, or not even the tribal nations. I think the way he's doing it, his community from a grassroots level, and it maintains the connection to the plant when you do it that way.
I think it's a model. I think you're right. As an economic model, just understanding the history of why it was criminalized, it was because of the economics. And so if we can take that model and put it into our own communities, there's a lot that we can do for our communities. And also it's a great, it's also not only just a healing plant just for us as human beings, the plant itself is also healing for the earth, for Mother Earth. So it's actually a wonderful crop that helps to regenerate the soil and helps to heal on that level as well. So there are so many wonderful uses for this gift, for this plant relative that we have, right? So, and it's all about education and folks understanding that relationship. When I went and I worked and I visited the hemp farm, the hemp operations, the growing operation, we did talk about the harvesting piece, and I talked about how, and I showed them how to make the offering at when they were harvesting. And so they do that now, which is amazing. That's awesome. They didn't know that. And so they do that. So I'm like, yes, because you never know when you're ordering all these herbs and things on the internet, and that's something that Vi and I talk about a lot is you never know who harvested those medicinal herbs and plants. Did they say a prayer? Did they make an offering? That kind of thing. So it's important for us to ensure that the protocols are followed all the way down to from our supplier, and that all the way, like seed to salve, that it goes from there, that respect and that relationship building.
That's really important. And I always like to use the example of some of you who are watching, you have your mother or your auntie or your sister or your mom who's a really good cook. Her food is just wonderful. It tastes awesome. You can't wait to get to their house to eat. They make bread that is just perfect. And sometimes you'll ask them, well, what did you put in this? And they'll say, I put love in there. And when they say that, that means that they're putting all those good thoughts into that pot of soup or that pan of dough or whatever they're cooking. They're putting all those good thoughts into that meal. And it's the same way with all these natural medicines that we work with. We have to keep our minds in a good place, because if we put anger or fear into those remedies, then that's what you're going to put in your body, are all those negative emotions. So harvesting, ethical harvesting, like Ann said, is really important. Sometimes I'm hesitant to get herbs off the internet because of what Ann said. I don't know who picked that plant. I don't know what they were thinking when they harvested it. Did they use scissors? Did they use a knife? Did they use their hands? Were they under the influence of something? Or were they just having a bad day and they put all that energy into that plant? So it's really important to establish that relationship. I shared a link in the chat where the day that we went out and helped Alex harvest, it was produced by a media company. I can't remember the name, but it gives a lot of information about Alex's operation out there and the really great day that we had. So yeah, you got to put love into that medicine, or else it's not going to do anything for the people that it's meant to heal.
Yeah. And a question. So, or for either of you. So when you make the medicine, what in the medicine is it that helps? Like, what is the some of the chemistry or some of the properties in the medicine, and how does it help help us? Like, does it go to the nervous system? Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Let me Google that real quick.
Right. That's way above my head, Lynette. Anne wrote a paper, so she's the expert. She can answer that question.
Well, I do know, I mean, if you look at just common sense, like I use CBD, and, different people in our family use it that have arthritis. And I know it helps them, and it like relaxes where the pain is. It relaxes, so the pain just kind of dissipates. And so, I'm just thinking that must affect like the nervous system, the pain receptors, all of that in that area. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Yes, it's interesting. It sort of goes where you need the plant to go to help you.
Mhm.
It's not like a specific, how some plants are like a real specific for this ailment,
Mhm.
and maybe a few things, but CBD it's like a wonderful like everything plant, even in its medicinal form. It's also like a wonderful medicinal plant, and I feel a lot of it has to do with, for me, and it helps. It's sort of like a superpower of other, if you work with other medicinal herbs and plants, it sort of superpowers that as well. So I've added the CBD to my arnica salve, which is already wonderful on its own, and it is amazing. And like I said, it helps. It helped my cousin with her issues after her stroke, and I've also just used it just topically on all of my ailments or whatever. But it works. It helps to reduce inflammation, which is really key to stopping or alleviating pain. And it also is something that when you take it internally, it lasts quite a while, when you however you take it on your oil or whatever, but it does last quite a while. But it does go straight to the issue, it seems like, and it's different for everybody in terms of how much dosage you should take. But it doesn't, it's just so folks also understand that it does not, it's different from the THC, which makes people like the psychoactive and gets people high. This is not like that. So it's a completely like another level of working with this plant. They're like cousins. Those plants are like cousins, if you think of it like that. You know what I mean? They're like cousins. This one's like, does other medicinal pieces, and works on this medicinal piece. So I know some people do smoke CBD. Or the hemp plant, I should say, but I don't know how, I don't have any experience, and I can't really speak to that at all, but I know that that it's been helpful for folks who are working on like issues with PTSD, autism. There's just so many ways to work with CBD.
And I guess the next question for Vi is, so I know you're in the process right now of all of the applications and forms. So how does that work with the state?
The state isn't
in South Dakota, so yeah.
The state isn't in the picture. Our reservation is not under state jurisdiction. So that was discussed at length in a hearing that the tribe had maybe 2 years ago on hemp. And because we enjoy our sovereign rights as a tribal nation, the state has no jurisdiction over what the Rosebud Sioux tribe is doing. Now, one thing that would probably be an issue is transport. I know the tribe talked about transporting through the state when they were having the hearing, and some of the council meetings that's come up. Well, what if we're transporting to North Dakota or Minnesota or some surrounding state and we get stopped? And it's already happened in South Dakota. There was a guy transporting hemp on the interstate. He got stopped. He was arrested and charged with a controlled substance. But those marijuana supposedly charges were dropped eventually. And so I think that South Dakota now has changed that law. I'm not quite sure, but they're going to have to come up and get with the times, so to speak, because this medicine is, the people who've used it, the people who are growing and producing products know that it's a miracle. And like Ann said earlier, that's why it was criminalized way back when, before we were born. It was criminalized because people knew that if they let hemp take over cotton and all those other industries, that they would go broke. So it's the marijuana discussion that the tribe has had internally in the council and with their attorney general and things, that's a whole nother issue. But it's, if it is decriminalized here, our people are going to have to understand that if they want to use marijuana or THC products, they can't use them off the reservation. They'll have to stay here on our lands to use them legally. And well, our state is kind of in the news now because of our governor. Last election, the voters in South Dakota approved both medical and recreational use of marijuana. And that's something that Governor Noem has fought tooth and nail. She continues to fight it. So I'm not sure what's going to happen on July 1st is when everything's supposed to become legal. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the lawmakers in Pierre do with that. Back to the hemp, we have wild cannabis growing here on the reservation. There's a patch growing north of me. Last summer, my family harvested some of those wild plants, and they were really, really potent. I have a relative who's suffering from cirrhosis, and those plants, we dried them and offered them as to smoke. And that was the only thing that took the pain away from her is those hemp plants. So this year we're going to try and see if we can get some seeds out of those wild plants and maybe get them tested somewhere to see what the levels are. Going back to the marijuana discussion that Ann brought up, when you use just straight CBD, you're going to pass your drug tests. It's not going to show up on a drug test as any kind of THC. Now, some people advocate for, well, CBD works better if it's got a little bit of THC in it. And that makes sense because like Ann said, those plants are closely related. But if you're going to use CBD, you need to use it in its pure form and not mixed with THC, especially if you want to pass a drug test. The CBD alone is going to take your pain away. It's going to make you feel great without that high feeling that people get from the THC. So I'm looking forward to the tribe legalizing marijuana too, because my mother passed away from cancer in 1990, and she never did drugs in her whole life. But when she got sick and she was in so much pain, she said to me, I think it's time that I try to smoke some joints, because I hear that it's good for your pain, and I'm in so much pain that there was none of the Western medicine could take that cancer pain away. So that's kind of basically why I want to provide all these products to our people, because we're in pain. Our elders are in pain, and you can't function when you're in chronic pain. It's just really hard. It'll drive you crazy. So whether it's hemp or marijuana or a combination thereof, it's a miracle medicine. I call it a miracle medicine. So yeah, I'm anxious to see what the state does too, Lynette.
Yeah, and I know in the state of Montana too, that was on the ballot and it passed this year, was the legalization of marijuana. And And I know there's a lot of bills that are working to, they're trying to define what that means and they're trying to change it. And there's a lot of things going on there. But I want to clarify for the people too, maybe, Anne, you can do this. You talked about them being cousins, so I think that's what we need to talk about. And when we're talking about CBD, that is not the THC. So maybe you can just talk about that, the cousins a little bit more to just clarify for the audience. So what's in the salves and that to help, like the CBD to help with pain, to help with inflammation, that type of stuff. So maybe you can just address that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I that's how I can explain it, because they really are. They're related, like cousins. One's from this other family, one's from another family. They all have like their own benefits, their own strengths. I guess you would say that's how I look at that. And so, but with CBD, it's derived from the hemp plant, which is different from, like Vice was talking about, with the marijuana plant, which has that content of THC. So when we're moving and working with CBD and deriving that from the hemp plant itself, there's a huge separation there. Okay, so the CBD is going to be, I think we talked a little bit about this process already, in the oil form that it comes in, and it's processed into an oil. And that oil right there is the basis for all of the healing, that we can put that and manufacture that into any kind of product at this point. We have to go through the regulations to do that, but this stuff is going to help you. And I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to when I can be able to market my products to folks, because I've developed a really nice line. And I know how to work with it. And so at some point I would love to also do a workshop, because I feel like we need to share this knowledge. Everyone needs to know. Don't be afraid to work with the plants. One, don't be afraid to work with your relatives, the plants. Two, learn how to work with them, learn how to work with CBD, because I'm only one person and so is Vi. And there are like so many of our relatives that need help, that we need everybody to have somebody in their tioshpaye, in their family circle, that makes medicine with the plants. And I'm totally down. I'd love to share this information. Like I say, I went out and sort of created my own path on this, and I wanted to know. So I went to the source and figured it out, right? And it's not that difficult, but it's just working with it, getting comfortable working with the applications. And at this point, find the challenge right now is to find the local sources for that. Like you say, maybe you might want to share some of where you're getting, where you work with your CBD from, some good sources for folks to work with right now, until mine come on the market, of course.
Thanks for that clarification, Anne, and explaining that a little bit more. I think that's real important. And I think that I really believe that it's a way of the future. I think we need to go back to a lot of our plant medicines, because a lot of the diseases that we have today, like we didn't have those a long time ago. And there's so many things that affect the body, affect the chemistry. And I think going back to the purity of our plants are going to help us, and they're going to heal us. And we see that happening, just like, Vi sharing about her mom. And a lot of our elders are going through a lot of pain with cancer and with some of these other diseases. And I know that this medicine, and I know the CBD really helps them. And I've seen it, firsthand help people with pain. And so, I'm real appreciative that both of you came on today to share about, like you said, this, controversial medicine. And if something is helping us and it comes from the earth and it's natural, just like anything else, I think there are things that people can, so we're talking about two things, that the cousins. one, we're talking about the CBD and how that helps us. The other side of that is the plants with the THC in it. That's a whole nother topic and a whole nother issue, that's out there. But that also has the ability to help us when it's used in the proper way. And I think with anything, people can abuse that side of that as well. So when we're working with these things, we really have to be mindful of that, prayerful, and not abuse these things. Even harvesting, you can abuse. A lot of people go out and harvest all of these wild medicines and they abuse it. And they're not, they don't come from a good mindset when they do that. So I think, there's a lot of education and knowledge. And this is just this came up, because I know Anne, worked with this plant medicine. And so I asked her to come on. So this is our first time we're addressing it. And I know, there's probably, all the chemical stuff, there's a lot of experts that can deal on that level. But I think what I wanted to address here is more the medicine and how we view it as a medicine and how our people look at everything as relatives and how, we can use that to help ourselves too. So that was kind of the mindset that I was coming from with the program, because it does have to do with health and wellness.
Yeah, I like to keep my presentation sort of like not academic and certain, just so that it's easy for folks to digest, especially so early in the morning. Just kidding. No, but for real, when I'm working with and have been working in developing and formulating like the CBD infusion that I make, it's an oil. It's an oil base and I like to use, I researched and I found a really beautiful olive oil I'm trying to get access to again. But when I was first working and developing these infusion, I actually ordered from Palestine a beautiful olive oil it's called Rumi olive oil. And so I like to use everything that has like super medicine. And so I found this beautiful olive oil from Palestine from their like 8,000-year-old olive trees, groves.
Wow.
And so that is like beautiful, powerful, strong medicine, just as olive oil itself. Plus it's like in Palestine, so we're supporting folks, but that's how I like to make my medicines, that's how I like to make my remedies. So I'm looking at that. And then I have a friend in Greece who is also doing, working with olive on the olive farm. So those are sources for like how I like to pair, when I was talking about pairing the different medicines together. So I like to look for that, like enhance the healing with like a deeper connection of other plant medicines, other relatives. So that's, I feel like that's a beautiful combination there that I really have been happy with that product. And then incorporating it into everything from comfrey salve to supercharge all the healing of broken bones to, just the basic arnica, but that's how I like to work with it in terms of incorporating that into the remedies. I like to look at all of the whole picture. Yeah.
Thank you. And Vi, do you have any closing words that you want to share with everyone? And we really look forward to, to hearing back how things are going with you and how, your crops and how the process is. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Lynette. One thing I want to say is I've stopped calling it a drug. I call it medicine now because it's not a drug. In the Washichu way of thinking, a drug, that word has certain connotations, and medicine has certain connotations. So I've tried to call it miracle medicine now. I mentioned the greenhouse. I got this little greenhouse, but I got that because I also mentioned a hot crop. If I'm growing hemp that has the 0.03 THC that's allowable in a hemp plant, And if somebody in the community, just like a couple miles from me, is growing marijuana, and that marijuana cross-pollinates with my hemp, then it might turn my crop hot. Hot means it's going to have a high THC level, and then all my work is for nothing, because the tribe is going to test my plants, and if it's found to be above 0.03 level of THC, then they're going to have to destroy them. So all that work would be for nothing. We had a Zoom call with a young man, a Dene man from New Mexico a few weeks ago, and he's been growing for several years now. But that is a problem that he has a lot, is that his hemp cross-pollinates with the marijuana growers around Taos. So he's lost a lot of those hemp crops because of the marijuana growers that live near him. So that's the reason for the greenhouse, and the CBD plants in the greenhouse, the industrial plants in the ground. If my industrial plants are cross-pollinated with a marijuana plant that's growing over there somewhere, then at least my plants in the greenhouse will still be within the legal range limit of THC. So I'm looking forward to getting my license from the tribe. It's the first time we're doing this, so of course it's a process, and I try not to be frustrated with it, but hopefully I can get my plants going before the end of the month. So thank you so much for having us, Lynette. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this miracle medicine, and I wish you and Philip all the best.
Thank you, Vi. Thank you. How about Anne? Do you have any closing comments that you want to share?
Well, I would like to just encourage folks to explore your local dispensary for CBD products, and explore your local, wherever there are herb stores, and find a good CBD remedy and start working with this medicinal plant, because it's so wonderful. I use it all the time, every day. And it's a lifesaver. So please share with your friends, and don't be afraid. It's to use this because of the supposed drug testing and all this kind of stuff. It's fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You're gonna be fine. You'll feel a lot better.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies. And, all of the audience out there, if you do have some questions, maybe you can put it in there. But, our whole focus was on the healing and wellness benefits of this plant, of the hemp and the CBD, and how it helps us. It really does help us. And so share this. I think it's an important topic, and we need to educate ourselves on it and not be afraid of it. We need to understand it. And I heard, Philip says this all the time: the highest form of ignorance is to judge something you know nothing about. And that came to mind today, through this conversation. And so all of you out there, I encourage you to research it, to understand it, to hear some of the testimonies of how, this plant has really helped people, and especially helped people with pain. And, like Anne said, try it yourself, try it and judge for yourself. So want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and we'll see you back next Saturday. Have a great week, everybody.